We'll do it live.
Do it live.
Yep, do it live.
Do it live.
Um,
All right.
Welcome into the next and final episode review of the Fallout's Fallout Season 2, and we're just going to dive right into it. So, Ronan, how you doing?
I am doing good. Hello, everybody. Y'all know who I am. I'm RoninTheCrusader, and we're talking some more Fallout. What about you, AP?
That we
How you
are.
doing?
Doing great. It's going to be fun, and we're going to have some opinions that people might not like.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I know for a fact I'm going to have a good number of opinions people ain't going to like. That much is a certainty.
Yep. It's going to be fun. So, without further ado, you want to talk about summarize your opinions on season 2's first review?
Yeah, let's go ahead and actually recap the first 4 episodes of season 2. So, obviously, season 2 picks up from when Lucy and the Ghoul were basically leaving the Griffith Observatory. The last of Moldaver's crew, shall we say, was basically wiped out by the Brotherhood, and so they started making their way towards New Vegas, so that way they could find Hank, and as Lucy would put it, bring him to justice. And all the meanwhile, we also see Maximus basically embracing the role of being a Brotherhood knight, while also continuing an absolute lie where he's the one that killed Moldaver, which isn't actually the case, but he took the credit for it. And
Yep.
let's see, I'm trying to remember again what was going on with episode 4, because again, like you watch some of this stuff and it's like it tends to be a little bit forgettable. At least for me, it was. But once we get to the second half, there are things that even I have to admit I'm not going to forget any of that stuff. All the while as well, we're also cutting back to like the 2060s, 2070s, like pre-war timeline, basically.
Yeah, pre-war,
When Cooper is knowing more about what Vault-Tec intends on doing and what other companies behind the scenes intend on doing for essentially the Great War, shall we say. Hello,
Yep.
Nishi. Oh, and also hello, Chell, and hello to my evil, retarded doppelganger, Ronan the Rager, and Booming Bob as well, too. Ebola. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for checking out the stream.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, season 1 was it had some nice parts to it, but overall, I think it was just here's cheap fan service.
Kind of, essentially. Season 1, it's like you say, it has its moments, and there are some bits in it that are hell. Even I look back to the what is it? It's after they escape from the Gulper, and Lucy is just like, "What about the golden rule? Do unto others as they would want done to you." And the Ghoul's just like, "Yeah, I got another golden rule. Thou shalt get sidetracked by bullshit every goddamn time." Which is funny because that, from a meta example, yeah, that basically means it's like, yeah, players are going to get sidetracked every damn time because they got to deal with side quests. It's like you're trying to do the main mission, whether it's finding your dad in Fallout 3, getting the water chip in Fallout 1, trying to find the Gek in Fallout 2. And then what happens? They're doing friggin' side missions for everybody else because you're basically everybody's errand boy. I mean, me personally, I don't mind it just because you're making a ton of money and a ton of XP doing that. But that's besides the point. Obviously, from a TV show perspective, it feels like a waste of time because you're being sidetracked to do filler stuff, shall we say.
Oh, new memes are brewing already in chat.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good.
I think the one part I accidentally muted.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think the one part about season 1 I actually really liked was I thought the Gulper looked kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, it looks like a mutated axolotl, but the finger mouth was kind of weird.
Yeah, that was wild.
But it definitely was a cool new version of a creature we because I know there's the Gulpers in Far Harbor, which look so different.
I think last time I remember they look like a cross between anglerfish and something else, if I can remember right. Yeah, something like that. It has been a while since that 4, so.
And then it was cool little creature. I don't think we got any new creatures seen in season 2 as far as I remember.
Well, season 2, like we said, I think we said this on the first stream, they did finally introduce the Death Claw. And they did.
Well, yeah.
I don't think we mentioned this aspect, but they did actually keep a bit of lore accuracy when it comes to the Deathclaw, because the Deathclaw
Mhm.
isn't just a creature made by
Oh yeah, it's
radiation. It's a Jackson chameleon that the Enclave actually was experimenting with using the FEV, forced evolutionary virus. So we
yep,
actually
and it
got
was
to see
also
them deployed
reward.
in China during Anchorage,
Yeah,
which was pretty cool. I will give them
which
that.
yeah, I was okay. That's cool, Cammy. Cool little nod to the lore.
Hmm.
And there's a few things that I thought was actually like okay, I like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
of course, I think the Death Thought overall looked all right. I think the arms looked a little big in my opinion.
Well, okay, so the thing is you gotta remember they're using Four's artwork and Four's
Yeah,
art design. That's everything, including the monster designs as well. The one thing I can give credit to, Bethesda's new design and new art direction when it comes to Fallout is the Deathclaw. They looked very lanky and thin and skinny in, the original games. Well, at least in 3 and 4, they looked a little lanky. Now, if you wanna talk about scare factor or creep factor, sure, they look a little bit more creepy that way, but we're talking about the Deathclaw being the most ferocious and terrifying monster, so the design that it has now actually fits and matches that description, being a hulking
yeah, and
monstrosity.
I will say I kind of wish they were more like the New Vegas counterparts, which they were fast and terrifying. Like
Th
you see one from a distance, like hey, I'm gonna shoot it. Vroom.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's kinda true. Which speaking of getting shot, the death claws, we'll talk about that much later with episode 8. Um, but,
Which
aside from that, they didn't introduce that many new, like, creature designs or anything of the sort. I mean
well,
oh, go
they
ahead.
did introduce the super mutant officially.
That's right. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about that now then. How about it?
Yeah,
Ron Perlman as a super mutant. Okay, I gotta ask you this. What'd you think about how they made Ron Perlman look as the super mutant?
I thought it kind of looked like a chubby version of Hulk. That's what that's my first thought was like his face looked more rounded and chubbier.
Yeah, it was cheap, if I'm gonna be honest. It felt
I
pretty.
mean, kind of.
Actually, no, that's kind of a
Yeah,
very compelling. That's a very compelling perspective, I would say, Chell. The Scorch piece is again because they're reusing. It really does feel like they're reusing a lot of like assets with some of the games because, well, for starters, they're
Bethesda's
using the
notorious for
creation
that.
engine, and they're probably taking a lot of lessons that they took from Skyrim and trying to apply it to the newer Fallout stuff. I guarantee it's going to be the same thing with
Yeah,
Elder Scrolls 6, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Um, that is the look that Ron Perlman has as the mutant. I understand that they're changing art designs, and that includes everything, like we mentioned with the Deathclaw, and it's also including the super mutants. I like the super mutant designs that you had in the first 2 Fallout games, where some of them even had, like, the straps that hold
well, it was
their,
also in New
their
Vegas.
lips together. New Vegas, they added it to some of they added it to the Night King. I remember they kept it for the Night King. Some mutants also had it, but most of the time I saw the Night Kings were the one that had it. In Fallout 3, the mutants were they didn't have any of that stuff, but instead just the lips were really retracted back naturally, and you saw the gum lines and
Yep.
whatnot.
By the way,
But
I am Phantom.
he is Atomic Phantom. But
Atomic Phantom.
the design was kind of hell, even Fallout 4's mutant design, like it was starting to lose a little bit of sort of that creep factor, like we mentioned before, but it was still an interesting design. With Ron Perlman's mutant, however, it really just felt
It
like
was
It just felt like Ron Perlman's face superimposed on a mutant. That's what it felt like. Now,
yeah,
okay, it's
yeah,
cool. They're
absolutely.
finally introducing mutants into the show, but the way that they introduced it did really feel cheap, if I'm gonna be honest. I didn't I it's cool, yeah, Ron Perlman, the guy that
Mhm.
narrates all the intros and does a couple voices of certain characters in the previous games. They got him in the show, but it's like, I'm not.
It felt like it was just a kind of a cheap nod to the iconic tone that he brought in the 1
Mhm.
and 2 and even in 3 and he was in New Vegas as well, yeah.
Yeah, he did, the intros for all games. Hell, he even did the intros for Tactics, which, speaking of,
Yep.
actually, we'll bring up Tactics a little later, but it's important why I do. But anyways,
Oh yeah, no, I get why. But
mhm.
honestly, the whole design of the super mutant, I don't like how they kind of made him shrouded in like
All
discarded
like
garment.
the
Yeah,
rags and whatnot. Yeah, of course.
I was kind of hoping we got to see but I kind of get why they did it. They did it to kind of save money,
What I
so they don't
would
have to
have
full.
what I would have really appreciated if they actually put the effort into this, if they and I know it would have been a good bit of money and a lot of time. It would have been interesting if they covered him in makeup like how he usually does when he was Hellboy. But it would have been cool if they'd done that.
Or they could have
That would
done
have
like
been an
a
interesting.
mixture of like makeup, so they can just kind of blend the face more smoothly
Mhm.
into it, and then like just have like a CGI body, or they could do what they did with not Captain America, kind of like superimpose his face on a
His
bigger
face
person's
on
body.
right. Well, smaller body, because the bigger body is Chris Evans' actual body once he transforms.
Yeah,
But I know what you mean though. Yeah.
well, that's what I meant was like with the Superman, they could superimpose it into like a bigger guy who's painted green.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, my bad. Yeah,
That
that's
could save a lot more money. That could save a lot more money than full CGI. But at the same time, I get why, because supermutants are in lore big hulking green creatures.
right, exactly. Yep.
Well, green and now bluish and
What blue again, the
blue are the
bluish
Nightkin, but
blue or the Nightkin because of their addiction, shall we say, to
yep.
stealth boys. That's why. But anyways,
Which I would have loved to seen a Nightkin, honestly,
that would have been pretty cool. But again, season 3, now that they're introducing super mutants, there's a good chance we might see Nightkin. I'm hoping.
possibly.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we also get to see, maybe they reference like the Nightkin have
Oh, the strap
yeah,
lips and whatnot.
the strap lips, so that
A-
at least
Again,
paying homage to the original designs.
like them throwing in Ron Perlman. I'm not gonna say they threw him in at the last minute. Maybe they planned it all this time, but kind of just having the design that they did. If when there's going to be a season 3, obviously, but
Hmm.
when they do season 3, and I'm probably hoping for too much, but I'm hoping that they actually do a better design for the super mutants, something that's a little bit
Yeah,
closer to what we saw before in the games. But anyways,
I I think yeah, I think it just kind of, to me, it stood out a little bit, a little
yeah.
bit more, and kind of felt ironically unrealistic. And I
uh,
get it; it's a giant mutated green humanoid creature with a non like a completely fictional freaking
but
drug.
there's got to be a
Yeah,
level of like connection within that world itself, at least like something that
it's got to
feels
be believable. It's got to be believable, even in the world that it's building.
right, which is why I say they should try and do some mix of practical effects. I mean, they're able to make the power armors, like, do a little bit of a mix of practical effects in CG, put in
So
the
I
extra effort.
going from this to what did you think of did you what do you think of this first half compared to this half, first 4 episodes of last 4?
Okay, so this much I can actually promise you, and even I'm surprised by this. The first half, and it also includes episode 5 as well. I was I was kind of getting like slowly but surely disappointed and just exhausted. I would say by maybe by episode 5, episode 6, I was almost completely done with it. Like I didn't even
Mhm.
want to finish the show, but I out of obligation, shall we say, as a fan, I felt like I had to finish watching it. So the first half of season 2 genuinely felt like a drag. It felt just I didn't want to keep watching it. And then oh, you know what? Actually, let me make the analogy now because we were talking in the green room before. I was going to say a
Yeah,
very off the cuff analogy. So let me put it like this for the whole show so far. Let's put it like that. Season 1 felt like it was a hot young lady that you once knew when you were kids. Like you two really got along with each other before, and then you finally caught up with her again. And personality wise, and even looks wise, she just changed and she was not what you expected. But you still wanted to give it a chance. You still wanted to try and give it a go. and she just started abusing you, beating you, slapping you
Yeah.
around, yelling at you, treating you like trash. By the end of it, she just basically gaslit you into saying that this is how she always was, and you wanted to give up, but you felt like you were compelled to try and give her a chance, and then you give her another chance, and she just kept abusing you and yelling at you and slapping you around.
Okay.
And then finally towards the end of it all, she comes back to you with a nice small bouquet of flowers. She makes you dinner. Then she brings you to the bedroom, give you a nice blowy, and bring you to third base. You don't hear an
I
apology,
mean,
but at least she gave you that in the end.
yeah, no, I can kind of see it. I can kind of see the analogy. Yeah. No, honestly, in my opinion of, like I said, there was some positive elements of season one. I kind of thought there were some positive elements of season two, but in my opinion, not as much. I I thought they relied far more heavily on fan service, considering New Vegas is one of their the most beloved Fallout games.
Right.
So they were more dependent on the pleasing the fans or by
Which I,
just
I
giving.
have to I actually need to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I need to point out that kind of I guess narrative because yes, New Vegas is I would say it is the most beloved. But
Mhm.
it's weird because there's a big discrepancy going on online. Well, I think she definitely liked the analogy. That's funny.
Yeah.
But there's a weird discrepancy going on online where people are saying that New Vegas was the worst game, that it was the most buggy, fans didn't like it as much, and this, that, and whatever. If that's the case, why is it the one game that's
Well,
constantly and I'm not even saying this as somebody who like just runs around most of these Fallout circles. Like this is just coming from somebody who like plays the game, but I don't often interact with the fan base all that much. I see New Vegas talked about a lot more often in good standing than I do with like 4 or 76. And
yeah.
hell, even 3 tends to
Well,
get put down a little bit, which
the
is kind
whole
of
whole thing
unjustified,
about
but
the whole
go
thing
ahead.
about that is when Fallout New Vegas did initially release, it was broken, it was buggy, it was so poorly optimized that it was that's
Well,
why
yes, of course, I
fans
know
hated
that.
it. But when it got optimized, when it got improved, fans went back and they started loving it again, and now it is regarded as
I mean, me, like, I stuck through the game even in the initial days when it was buggy
yeah.
because the I would say that the story that Obsidian wrote, especially considering that it was Josh Sawyer and, Chris Avallon that helped write the story for, New Vegas, like, it was a really compelling story. It felt like to me, it was like the first experience I was having with the first 2 games. That's kinda
Yeah.
how it felt. Like, there was a little bit of comedy in there, a little bit of gallows humor, but there was also enough levels of seriousness where you know that there was actually something meaningful, shall we say,
Mhm.
something significant in, like, the greater story that was occurring, you know? And I don't even say this to try and put Fallout 3 down because I actually did like the storyline for Fallout 3. I rather enjoyed I like the fact that Liam Neeson was in it as your
Yeah,
dad. That was a cool
that
thing.
one surprised me.
It just so happened that New Vegas was one I was a little bit more entertained by.
Mhm.
But it's weird that nowadays, because people are criticizing what's going on in the show, shall we say it, every Bethesda show is essentially coming out of the woodwork and trying to defend 4, trying to defend 76, and in the process of doing so, they're also basically trying to put down New Vegas as well, constantly putting it down, talking about how it was buggy on the first day, talking about how there was,
Yeah.
jokes in it, so you can't take it seriously, and, this, that, and whatever, and it's I don't get it, but
Well,
that's the
here's the thing
discourse
I've
occurring
talked
now.
about. Here's the thing I've talked about that a lot of people seem to like kind of be not everyone, but there's a lot of people out there who seem to be kind of disingenuous with this part with the whole like, well, Fallout New Vegas had dumb responses. I'm like, yeah, but it also had smart responses. It had witty responses. It had asshole responses. It had good writing. It just gave you the option to choose what you wanted to say and all
Multiple
that. And yeah,
options.
sometimes NPCs had dumb responses. But yeah, that doesn't excuse the fact that when you're writing a show, a linear story, which you cannot have very many branching options You
Mhm.
have to have one like stream,
One narrative,
one
yeah.
main, one full soul narrative. You can branch it off into like spin-offs and other shows and all that, but
Right.
that's different. That's different than
A
a
game that has,
multi-choice.
like, multiple paths that you
Yeah.
choose, yeah.
So when you have a linear story, you have to focus more on good quality writing and dialogue because it's more noticeable and
Mhm.
it's less excusable. And
Right.
I get there are some moments where you can say, "Hey, it's fine to have a dumb response there, or a bad like a corny response, or even like a cheap joke, or even a snarky remark. You can have that in the show. Not saying that isn't allowed. The
Mhm.
issue is when that's like 75% of the dialogue, 50 to 75% of the dialogue, it becomes nauseating. It feels more insulting because it's like, okay, it doesn't feel like they're taking it seriously.
Mhm. Right. Right, exactly. And like the thing about that too is that when you as a fan like try to basically point that stuff out and criticize it, then a lot of the naysayers basically come back at you as though, why are you taking it seriously? It was never this serious. It's like, well, it certainly wasn't a fucking James Gunn, slog fest either, where every other bit of dialogue is just a wisecrack or a joke or just some kind of meta sarcastic, statement. Like none of that was ever the case when it came to Fallout. Like maybe every so often you may have gotten something that was, sarcastic or a little parodic, shall we say. But when you go through the games straight through, you feel like there's some kind of
Yeah.
meaning behind the discussions that are occurring with the characters.
Well,
Hell, Ulysses is the prime example of
yeah.
how heavy the dialogue can get. And then, of course,
Well, it's
when you just real quick, when you
yeah,
even
no,
bring up, Ulysses of sorts, because there's a lot of sincerity that's occurring with that kind of dialogue, a lot of the people just then try to say it's pretentious and overthinking and this, that, and whatever. It's like, I'm giving you proper examples of how it's not all jokes, and then this is what you immediately jump to. It almost feels disingenuous, the kind of conversations you have with these people.
yeah.
Like they want to see it as a theme park, the Fallout franchise, and
Hmm.
then we want to see it as how there's there's a good blend of dark humor and just brutal reality that occurs in this world.
Well, yeah, there's also like in Fallout 4, which is far more jokey than the prior games.
Right.
There are moments where like the discussion between when you go to the Institute for the first time and you discover that your son Sean is the father of the Institute. He's the one operating everything. He's the one who's been kidnapping, like orchestrating kidnappings and all that of people and turning them into synths.
Right.
And there's a very serious conversation there. It's a very
Mhm.
serious like, oh shit, my son is contributing to this massive evil, and I wanted to find my son. I found him, and now he's an evil human being.
Right.
What do I do? And that's a very serious moment. And yeah, there are responses we can have, like like witty responses, but like in the first dialogue when you're talking to also, hey, what's up, Kings and Advisors?
Shout out Kings.
Yeah, no, but like my point is like when you're talking to Sean and then like he reveals that he's the one who got you out of the pod, and then talking about what happened to his mother, and he says that's collateral, and that you can have a response that says like, is that all she was to you, was just collateral damage? And and it kind of has a very serious conversation, like a very
Mhm.
serious way. And like
Yeah,
how
of
I always
course.
play it is I respond with the one like kind of relieved to see him, at the same time you're like kind of shocked. You're seeing a 60 70 year old man is now is your son,
Son, yep.
so you've missed his entire life. And so when I respond with like, oh, and then when he starts how he responds to like the death of Nora, because that's her technical name. Um, and then I respond logically. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna respond with this because this makes more sense. Granted, I hate the whole Bethesda response system of the
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of it either.
but yeah, no, I try to respond realistically. And sometimes like I'm like bored. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna respond wacky responses because there are wacky responses in games.
Yeah.
But even Bethesda has serious moments. Like, for example, another one when you are raiding the castle and all that, it's a very serious moment. And yeah, there's some banter and all that, but that's mostly afterwards. Once you successfully raid the castle,
Hmm.
like Preston Garvey, he's pleased. Like he's like, we did it. We're finally rebuilding the Minutemen, and we finally retook the castle.
Hmm.
And it's like a triumphant moment. And then there's also the dance dilemma, which is one of the hardest decisions in the game if you're siding with the
Right.
Brotherhood.
Yes. Hmm.
Because like
I do
in my
remember the
opinion,
dance.
I love. I think he's a great one of the best companions. I think, of course, Nick Valentine is the best companion because he's the most well written.
Hmm.
Which also another example is Dance's story. It's not his story. Like his quests are very serious. But yeah, the point is, there are serious moments. There are serious dialogue. There's good dialogue in the games. And in my opinion, when going to the show, there's a lot of good dialogue in the show in the serious moments.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think the serious moments are like the best part of the show.
The
I
the
think,
the few moments that I actually find not just to be serious, but pretty compelling,
yeah.
for at least for me, it does involve any of the pre-war stuff with like
Mhm.
Cooper and his wife. Like in those instances, okay, I actually do like some of the discussions that they're having with each other. I like the choices that he's making, and I like how much he understands that there's a good bit of sacrifice that needs to be made when it comes to making these choices. The one thing I
Yep.
am going to say is this: it it's really goofy the way that they treated Mr. House. And this is
Oh,
another
dude.
thing
Yeah.
when it comes to the discrepancies. People talk about how Mr. House was always an egoistic, megalomaniacal man, and the one
Mhm.
clip that they constantly point towards. And mind you, this is a valid reason as to why he acts this way. Is
Mhm.
when the courier decides he's going to eat the freaking platinum chip. That's the one time when he starts acting like a megalomaniacal freak, because you're talking about
I
the
mean, you
guy
do something
who's
so absurd.
you're talking about a guy who's been planning 200 years to try and protect Vegas, failing at it, but then seeing another opportunity to obtain that one device that's going to help him protect Vegas.
Mhm.
And now the dude who's trying to give it to him, who he needs to give it to him, literally is going to do something as absurd as swallow it just because
Yeah.
you happen to have this one perk where you can do that.
And
Of
he's
course,
like,
he's going to
yeah.
react the way that he does.
Yeah, it's honestly very reasonable for a decision because it's like in his mind, he's trying to save Vegas.
Right.
In his mind, and so like from his perspective, he's trying to save Vegas, and then he sees the one opportunity he has to get this chip is literally swallowed, and
Right.
then so he's like, "What the?" Of course, he's gonna be angry because, like, first of all, how can you expect that someone to
Right.
be that dumb to just swallow a? But again, not saying there can't be banter or witty humor in the show,
No, of course, there can
but
be.
you have to take it more seriously. It can't be like a complete homage to every aspect of the games. Otherwise, it won't feel like it will feel like you're watching someone play the game instead of watching a show of the game.
Or half the time it kind of feels like James Gunn is the one that's directing the show. And I'm already exhausted with James Gunn as is. Like people
Same.
like to use the whole Marvelification phrase, right? And that's kind of what it feels like is happening with Fallout.
Yeah.
The show's 76. It
Hmm.
started with 4, but again, it feels like it's Bethesda taking the whole franchise and more or less changing the DNA of it so it can match with a mainstream audience. There's no problem with having a series be niche where only a certain group of people enjoy it. I understand from a financial perspective, it's not viable because you can only get so much money from a certain base before you realize you need to expand. I get it,
Yep.
but at the same time, you're sacrificing what that franchise once meant, what it stood for, and what it represents by diluting it just so that way it caters to everybody. That's again, we've seen that happen with a lot of other franchises.
but I want to go. I want to go back to show because there
Yes,
are
let's do
some
that.
things I like. There, like I'm not gonna lie. Like there are some things I liked. I think one of my favorite moments in the latter half, in the last 4 episodes, was the hotel scene where it revealed that, like, and yes, there's spoilers warning, guys. If you haven't
Yes.
seen it, then don't watch this stream, obviously,
But
because
you've
it's
been
a
warned.
review. But yeah, there's a moment in where Lucy's finally out of, she finally successfully stole for the first time. She kind of violated her own moral code,
Hmm.
and she stole a power fist, which props. That's a good weapon to have. But then the ghoul, she gets back to the hotel room. Ghoul betrays her by revealing that, like, he wants his family matters more to him
Right, right,
than she does. And he's kind of thinking, like, well, she's gonna be taken back to the vault, so she'll be safe. So it's not immoral, but he still betrayed her.
hmm
And so he betrayed her because he wanted to find out where his wife and daughter were. Kind of reasonable. But that whole moment, the whole dialogue, when she finds out, like, he's not joking. Like, he's fully intending on, pushing her aside to find his wife and daughter. And
right.
that whole dialogue, the seriousness and all that. And when he drugs her, she's down. You think this is it. Like, there's no coming back. She's drugged. I like the moment when she fought the drugs and stood back up and then punched him with the power fist. However, I'm like, I don't recall the power fist doing that in the games. Like,
Well,
launching someone.
that depends on the build that you make, but
That's a fair
um,
point. That's a fair
for
point.
me, for me, surprisingly, I'm actually on the other I'm on the other end of that scene. I felt that it was strange that Lucy was able to fight the drug like that because you have to remember this, right? She got drugged before
Yeah,
when it came to buff out, and she got addicted, and so she clearly was not able to like control the addiction that much until she finally got the addictol, right? But it's weird. I don't know, maybe there's some kind of like after effect where the addictol stuck around where it kept her like resistant to drugs for a
that's
reasonable amount of time, enough time where she
what
was
I
able to
was
resist
wondering.
that. Maybe that's the case. Um
However, I will
I,
agree on the fact that is something that should be explained in the show.
I mean, you're introducing several drugs into the show, which are drugs that we saw in the game.
Hmm.
At least try and give a little bit of explanations how the stuff works. Which, speaking of, I don't think we commented on this, but buff out is not an IV kind of drip feed drug. It's pills. All right.
Yeah,
Please, for the love of God, try and get that right. It's pills,
yeah,
not an IV drip fed drug. But anyways, um,
yeah. No, yeah, I forgot about that too.
the other stuff I will say, and you know what? Actually, let me bring this up. Actually, so after Lucy gets drugged,
Hmm.
spoilers again for anyone who hasn't watched. Hank finally shows up to the hotel room and brings Lucy to the management vault, which we find out later onwards happens to be under the Lucky 38 casino, which that kind of gives a lot more questions than
Hmm.
answers when it comes to New Vegas. But anyways, the one thing I will say that I did appreciate because I saw this post kind of going around a lot. People were kind of criticizing this one scene where Lucy's talking to Hank and he's kind of discussing why he's using the little, neck chip implant to try and
Hmm.
brainwash and control people. And she's like, okay, one side is literally murdering, killing, torturing, and raping people out there in the wasteland. And another side is vaguely problematic. And people were calling that out because I imagine they saw the phrase problematic and they immediately recoiled in disgust because you hear the term
Yeah,
problematic and it's just like, oh God, here we go again with more of the woke dialogue, DEI, BS, and all that shit. But what people are missing is the context of why that conversation happens in the first place. Because, like, maybe one or two scenes ago, Lucy runs into the one Legionnaire that was like in the room in the previous episode in like the big
yeah.
office room, shall we say. And he starts attacking the NCR Ranger that helped her out a couple episodes ago, the old
Hmm.
one, and he's like stapling his friggin' face. And then she has to activate the device in order to stop the two from fighting each other. And then she sees him again dressed up in like a nice little office outfit. And then in the same scene where she's having that conversation with Hank because they're having dinner, she sees the NCR Ranger. And then that's when she starts to remember, okay, I just realized this guy's an NCR Ranger. He helped me out, but now he's being brainwashed. The other guy, the Legionnaire, almost killed us, but now he's been brainwashed, which is a good thing. She's battling now with the morality
The,
of using
the
such
moral
a
dilemma.
device, the moral dilemma
Yeah.
of controlling the Legion, but then that also entails controlling everybody from the NCR, or just not doing that and allowing the Wasteland to act as the Wasteland does. So when she finally has the conversation with Hank, now you have the context as to why she's having that dilemma. One side is killing, torturing, and raping everybody, and the other side is vaguely problematic. And like Hank says before, high taxes, expansionist mentality. And it's like, well, I mean, they're basically they're basically repeating the mindset of the old world,
Hmm.
pre-world government kind of stuff. That's what they want to do. That's the ethos that the new California Republic has adopted. And meanwhile, the Legion has adopted a very bastardized perspective of the Roman Empire. That's why when it comes to the Legion, I'm not entirely bothered by their portrayal. I know a lot of people seem to be very bothered by them, but I would say they're like the Legion LARPers and cosplayers that really seem to. Some of them say they don't like it, but they really seem to want to defend them. But we'll talk about them a
Yeah.
little bit more. I'm just trying to discuss this one specific point. I appreciate the context of understanding of that conversation, so I appreciate it now. I get it, and it is a little interesting, that kind of moral dilemma that occurs with Lucy, figuring out how to save the wasteland, how to save people in the wasteland. But surprisingly, the one thing I kind of like the most in the latter half of season two, especially towards the last two episodes, it would have to be Maximus. Like, I'm actually
Yeah.
surprised that Maximus started to have a bit more of a character arc in this.
See.
Some people may disagree with me, but when he was essentially embracing the lie of being a knight,
Hmm.
and then he had the mission with Xander confronting the kids, especially, and some of them being ghouls, and finding Thaddeus again, and he decided to kill Xander rather than
Hmm.
let Xander kill the kids. I'm like, all right, now this is interesting. This is a
Yeah.
very interesting
I
change of
will
pace,
say,
let's put it.
like overall, they it seemed like they started treating Maximus more like a actual character instead of just a archetype.
Right.
Like
Yes.
he started evolving. Like I will admit, the whole fight scene when he was fighting the Death Claw to save, I liked it. I was like, oh shit, okay,
I'm I'm still hesitant about the whole NCR Ranger power armor. Like, I understand the NCR had power armor, but let's
hmm,
clarify this real quick. They had a slimmed down version of power armor. They took out some of the armor components so that way
and just pretty much just made it
most
regular
people could just
combat
wear
armor.
it. Yes,
Yeah,
that's why in game as like a mechanic, you don't need power armor training to wear it. But
yeah,
again, putting that aside, I'm not really big on like trying to combine the NCR Ranger armor, which is like the Duster and the Riot, the LAPD Riot gear,
yeah,
combining that together and then putting that into power armor. I don't really like it myself because it's like, oh, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, trying to get power armor and the NCR Ranger armor. But
yeah,
when Maximus wore the armor and actually decided to fight against the Death Claws, I was like, all right, okay, this is pretty cool. He's
yeah.
actually getting his time to shine now, and I actually appreciate that.
I was pretty happy. I was pretty happy with that. Now, like I've said, I kind of like the armor. I think it's the power armor.
Mhm.
I understand why they would do it, like lore wise. I wish they explained it. Maybe they will in season 3. That their armor that they were using wasn't cutting it anymore against the Legion, and
So
so
they
they
started
needed full. Yeah,
experimenting with full
yeah,
armor,
with full.
okay.
Yeah, and I kind of hope they do explain that. Um, because I personally I like the design. I get why they didn't want to just copy and paste
Yep. It's okay. I'm chaperoning him, Sophie. I'm chaperoning him.
I needed an adult. I needed an adult for this.
I
um,
am an adult. Anyways.
what?
What's
Yeah, no.
up,
What's up,
Jake?
Jake? No, it was freaking like I personally like the design of it, but
Mhm.
again, I understand your complaint because like lore wise, they did have the
Slim
regular
down armor,
normal
right?
like civilian, not civilian, but like not typical power armor.
Right, right.
But again, like I said, I like the design. I think.
Hey,
Yes.
but
Yeah, no, but I like design. My whole thing was that scene where he was like fighting the Deathclaw. I
mhm.
was like, yes, more of that. Again, I also like going back to another scene, like because they were doing the whole Norm's brother, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
B plot with Norm and
I've been hoping that like they make it to where he starts making more decisions. He starts becoming more assertive, more dominant, and all that. But there was like multiple times where he had the opportunity. He was like, nope, and ran away.
he's
However, I will say towards the end, like towards that final scene with him in it, it seemed like he was more hardened because he just witnessed everyone like
get killed by
spoiler
the rad
wise.
roaches. Yeah.
Everyone got spoilered. Everyone got spoiled by the red roaches. But no, yeah, like they all got murdered by the red roach except that one girl who was defending him.
Helping
And I'm
him
like,
out. Yep.
yes, make him more assertive, make him more like he
Hardened.
has to be, yeah, more hardened on it because he just watched a massacre.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, the one person who was there with him who was there and actually wanted to help him
Survived the
survived.
ordeal. Yeah.
And so there could be an easy like I feel like they might hint at a romance between them.
Possibly. That's
But
possible.
no, but knowing modern, they might make it to where they imply it's a romance, but then like she's a lesbian and all that. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think I wanted to see more of Norm being assertive. That's just what I wanted. I hope that we do that in season 3. But
Uh, yeah, I would agree with that as well too. Getting back to the fight that Norm has,
yeah,
sorry, that Maximus has against the Death Claws. The one of the things I really do appreciate the most too is when he's getting out of the
mhm.
armor. He decides to pick up the little pool cue and the roulette wheel. Now
Yeah,
it's pretty for me, it's pretty dumb and it's very much like a suicide attack he's about to do. But while he's doing all of that, he's also thinking back to his family. He's thinking back
mhm.
to when he encountered for the first time the
Thinking back to what
Brotherhood
his
and
father
everything.
said.
To
Thinking back to
me,
what his father said, which I was like, yes, more
to
fatherhood
me,
stuff.
yes, to me that felt like it was actually a good bit of character development because okay, he saw the Brotherhood as how I view the Brotherhood, how I
Yes.
used to view them. Because so, just bit of context. My first ever Fallout game was Fallout 3, and so that's the first time I ever experienced the Brotherhood of Steel, and it's mostly the Lions chapter. I understand people are saying, "Oh, they're a splinter faction. They're not true to how the Brotherhood actually is." From my perspective, I believe that the Brotherhood should be more like the Lions chapter, very
Yeah.
altruistic. Their sole purpose is defending the wasteland with collecting technology being a secondary purpose, with the possibility of sharing it with the rest of the wasteland, sharing it with people they can trust. I feel as though that's something that fine, it may be straying away from Roger Maxon's original ethos from when he first
Yeah.
created the Brotherhood of Steel, but at the same time, it's an ethos that maybe you should kind of slowly stray away from because not sharing the technology sooner or later, it's only going to be people like just the Brotherhood. That's not really a world that most people are going to want to live with. They will come after you for that. The best thing you
Yeah.
can do is just find a way to negotiate and make some peace. Fine, don't make peace with like Raiders or Talon Company or the Legion and so on and so forth. But see if you can
Or
make peace
con
with
or yeah.
see if you can make peace with the NCR or the people of Good Springs or Rivet City or Megaton. Find ways to make peace with them and help them out with the technology. Putting that aside, I feel as though that's kind of how Maximus saw the the Brotherhood until he realized how they actually were. And so he started embracing more so what he saw the NCR as, which is
Hmm.
a good community of good people. Now, having
Yeah,
said all of that, after the fight ends, when he's about to charge one of the Death Claws, Death Claw's head gets blown up. And what do we see? It's an NCR Ranger perched on top of one of the roofs. I think it's on the Silver Rush with an
it's pretty
anti-material
much a
rifle
recreation. It's pretty much a recreation of the
of
New
the
Vegas intro.
opening. Yeah, yeah, the NCR shooting the one Raider or Fiend or Great Khan in the New Vegas intro. That's a full-on member berry, and to be completely
Oh,
honest,
straight up.
they didn't really get the angling or the shot of it right, but whatever. It's supposed to basically it's supposed to invoke that scene. So that's a whole lot of key jangling right there. And the other thing I gotta complain, and I know people were arguing about this, but how is it that the Legion is scattered to the wind, basically barely any existence in season two? The last we saw of them, of any legitimate presence, was in season one, and they were just reduced to nothing more than like
Mhm.
raiders and whatnot. Now somehow the NCR shows up as a full force by the end of season two with like troops and everything. Like,
That's what I was
what the
wondering.
hell
Like,
is
I
this?
was like, and people are saying, well, they never said that they said Shady Sands was taken down. I was like, yeah, but they said Sands was taken down and the NCR was scattered. I would have loved a short, maybe 2 episode side story where we see that woman from the NCR finally gathering people from the NCR, finally like communicate with someone from the NCR.
I would have appreciated if
Yeah,
they actually did that. Then it would have made sense why they
yeah,
finally showed up. Because this
it would have felt
out of
more
nowhere
impactful.
show up, it feels more like a somehow Palpatine returned as
Yeah.
Poe. That's what it feels like. That's why
Oh,
people are
exactly.
calling it out. But
I thought it was. I thought like I didn't like that. I mean, I like that the NCR is not gone or fractured. Like, but I wish they
right, that's
explained it instead of just saying, "Hey, suddenly here's entire freaking battalions of the NCR." And I'm like, wait a minute.
that's the one thing I will appreciate. Okay, the NCR is not gone. Good. They actually didn't do the meme and just
Yeah,
sweep the NCR into the trash bin just so that way Todd can play with the Brotherhood and the Enclave again.
yeah.
But
Speaking of the Enclave,
speaking of the Enclave, yes. One of the other B plots, this is more like a C plot, but Stephanie, the new overseer of Vault
the
33,
Canadian.
it is revealed she is Canadian, and
Yeah,
Chet, wanting completely out of the marriage, decides to reveal she's Canadian. But let me just say something real quick about Chet too, because he finds the glasses of I forgot what the chubby guy's name is, but he finds the glasses of him
yeah,
in the trash compactor, but decides to destroy them. What the hell,
yeah.
dude?
I thought it was odd.
That was a very sackless thing of him to do, because if he was going to basically confront her, he should have kept the
Woody.
glasses. Woody was the guy's name.
I think if he like like lifted up his like uniform and then put him under there, and then
I would have respected him a whole lot more. But at the very least,
but
he did
at least when they brought it back though, like they like he's like, oh no, I destroyed it, and they're like, okay, well, why did you do that? Like you destroyed the evidence that you could have.
use to confront her about this. At the very least, he had the
Yeah.
passport. That's good enough. So that
But
helped.
anyway, since
But
we're
yes,
going on 10 minutes, just you want to talk about like expectations for season 3 and all that?
so okay, one of the guarantees that we do have, just to
Mhm.
tie it real quick with the conversation regarding Stephanie, she busts out a Enclave Pip Boy and basically initiates phase two. So now we know somewhere in the middle of the US, the Enclave is coming back once again, and they somehow there's like
Somehow
this
the Enclave returned.
and there's like this whole greater plan that existed on the wasteland. Like the surface is the real, is the real experiment, like what Hank mentioned before he gives himself amnesia, which is okay. That ultimately led to nothing.
Yeah,
Lucy's storyline led to nothing. That was
I feel like that was a that
ridiculous.
was a that was dull.
But the expectation now, I would say, since we know that the ghoul Cooper is now making his way towards Colorado, my expectation on this now is the possibility that we are going to get some not references, but some connection to Fallout Tactics. Because if you remember,
Yeah.
Fallout
Yeah.
Tactics happens to take place in the Midwest. It takes place around the Rockies, around the Colorado region, somewhere close by Chicago as well too. And over there happens to be a Midwestern chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel, which has a pretty cool, pretty badass looking armor, I would say, which is like a cross between
Yeah.
regular power armor and the Enclave's advanced power armor Mark One. It's a really cool design. It's a pretty terrifying design, I would say. But knowing that the Wasteland, is a pretty big world, and knowing that the Brotherhood of Steel has a foothold over there as well, and knowing that the Enclave
Yep.
somehow still exists after all this time, because I guess they're like Hydra, cut off one head, two more shall take its place. I would actually like to see some stuff from Tactics because I have to admit, like, as much as I found the first half to be a slog, the second half, it's like what Al Pacino says. Every
Mhm.
time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. And somehow I
Yeah.
just vaguely do want to see how they're going to do season 3, especially considering they're bringing Colorado into this. So they're either going to be referencing Tactics, or there's also Van Buren as well. The unused
Van
Fallout 3 that Obsidian
the
and Black
original
Isle were going to
Fallout
make.
3.
The original Fallout 3 before Bethesda made Fallout 3.
If it was Atomic Ghoul, I wouldn't have a nose. Maybe I should have just painted my nose black there.
Oh god, that'd be funny. But my expectations, I kind of want to hope that we get a little bit of like Fallout Tactics and maybe a little bit of Van Buren as well too.
Yeah.
Clearly, the Legion is coming back as a unified force. The Legion was going to play a big role in Van Buren, and now that Macaulay Culkin has taken the role of Kaisar, which is an
Interesting.
interesting thing to
Yeah,
occur.
I don't know how to feel about that.
I wish that they actually showed us more of Macaulay Culkin as the character. They didn't really give us a whole lot. They only gave us those 2 episodes, and that's it. So they
Yeah.
really should. And the little line that they give us, we will take over New Vegas, and we will bring forth a new palace for the Legion,
I'm gonna be
Caesar's
honest.
palace. And I'm like,
That
fuck's sake,
delivery,
man.
that delivery kind of felt so flat. It just felt so like
I
you think he'd be like yelling, energetic, and like, or not even yelling, but like he'd be just like projecting his voice more. But he's like, we're gonna take New Vegas. And it's like that's it. You're not gonna project. You're not gonna,
I like I know his wife said that he needs to be on the show, that it feels like a show he would definitely be on.
Mhm.
Just prove it to me that you want to be on the
Yeah.
show, dude, because I'm not feeling it now. I wanted to have hopes because I like Macaulay Culkin,
Oh
but
yeah.
come on, bro.
His first
Seriously.
appearance was all right. I thought his first appearance was all right. I
Yeah.
felt this second one was lackluster.
And the fact that he did more research, more effort actually
Yeah.
doing the research on the show than a lot of these actors did. That's why I still give him some props, and I want
Yeah,
to I
and
want to have faith, but anyways.
I will say, like, there's a lot of things I'm genuinely concerned about when it comes to season 3.
Yeah.
Specifically, the fact that they're once again relying on the Enclave as their big bad. It's like, come on, try a new faction. You could say, hey, they are ex Enclave, and they wanted to create a what they thought was a better version of their superior version.
Mhm.
You could say, hey,
Mhm.
they're ex Enclave and all that. You could explain that, but they just went like, oh no, it's just the Enclave. They're still
It's
there.
it's perplexing to me because the Enclave have been destroyed 3 times. 3
Yep.
times, 2 in the same game. They got wiped out, or at least they just took a heavy loss in Fallout 2 when the oil rig was destroyed.
Hmm.
And then in Fallout 3, Raven Rock was destroyed and Adams Air Force Base was destroyed.
Hmm.
Now, unless somehow, and they don't even mention this in any of the games either, but unless somehow the Enclave has a base of operations that exists in just about all 50 states or in all 13 commonwealths of the United States, which they never even discuss that, unless that's somehow the case, again, the Enclave coming back feels like the same ass pull like they did with the NCR
Yes.
coming back out of nowhere.
It's just like, again, reuse, recycle, repeat. That's pretty much
Right.
what they're doing. And it's getting so exhausting to see that over and over again. It's like, create a new faction.
Mhm.
Hell, like
Mhm.
in my spare time when I was like, imagining, well, what if I could have a game set in like a certain location, what would their factions be? And I would think like, there's like few locations where it's like heavy biker gang, have a major raider faction be a biker gang. You don't have to see them riding bikes. You could just say they could be wearing biker armor and all that.
Right.
Because Bethesda refuses to show any vehicles in their games, in the Fallout games. But anyway, yeah, that's all we got right now. What do you got going on, Ronan?
Oh, yes. Well, tomorrow is Sunday, the Lord's Day, which just also happens to be the day where the homies have a weekly matinee with the homies, where we talk about all different kinds of films. Now, tomorrow we're going to be talking about, in celebration of Black History Month, we're going to be talking about blaxploitation films. And the film that we had just recently watched was Black Dynamite, which was absolutely hilarious.
Funny. It was so great.
Funny as hell, dude. Like you want a good movie to laugh about and also feel like you're feeling the soul from the brothers. Go watch Black Dynamite. Highly recommended. But yes, go check out tomorrow's stream over here on this same channel at 1:00 Eastern.
And yeah, so that's what we got going on for Sunday show. Do you have any streams going on this week?
Yes, my own stream. So as usual, on Monday, I'll be with Isaac on his channel with the Golden Age podcast, or some of us like to
Golden
say
Shower
podcast. And throughout the week, I'll be doing my usual streams of Claire Obscure Expedition 33. And I know I've been slacking on Fallout. I'm going to pick up on that again. I need to look for a good day where I'm actually going to do that and continue playing Fallout. And that's about it, actually. But like always, you can find down here in my link all my different other links. I got a YouTube, which is Ronin the Crusader. I got a Kick, which is Ronin the Crusader. I got an X, which is Ronin_Crusader 7, a little different like usual. And that's where you can find me. And you can also join the For the Homies Discord. You can also join the DCA Discord. You can find me on any of those locations. Really good communities. And before AP says it, I'm gonna steal the line from him. Buy the merch. Buy the merch.
There it is. There it is.
Now he's got me saying it. So
you goddamn line colonizer. Yeah, like you said, buy the merch. I said it. But no, yeah. We have a lot of plans. A Sunday show, and right after this stream, we are going to be their homies are going to be doing the anime stream, where they're talking about stuff. So that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be like pretty much 30 minutes after this stream. And
so go and check that out as well.
Yeah, go check that out, because they're the main homies are gonna be there. We're just the
B squad. Let's just be real about it.
The B squad. But yeah, so yeah, if you guys like the video, hit the like and share the stream. Also, one more thing just before we go, I should give my outro. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is where I'm mostly active. And as Ronan said, we got the matinee stream tomorrow, which is gonna be fun. And yeah, and you can find me on X. And as always, we're heading out, guys. Peace out.
Like the stream, homies.
Like the stream. And as Phantom always said, if it's brown, flush it down.
Have a good night, everyone.
Campy is gay.
Ah.